And we're streaming live on Facebook. You can see my guest seated in studio to help me have the conversation on the governance system we are practicing, whether it's being fruitful, whether we have gained any success of it for 68 years of existence. But before we go into the conversation, let me read to you a message I saw from Her Ladyship, Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, to her children on Independence Day, which I think is good for us all. She says, "Happy Independence Day. This is the part of the world with which we have been blessed. It may not be all we want to be, but it's ours. And for that, we thank the Almighty. We have achieved a lot, even if we could do more. Given our circumstances, enjoy a blessed day as you reflect on what you can do to make her situation whatever you conceive it to be. Let us stop the endless complaining and finger pointing and put our shoulders to the wheel. There are no shortcuts to nation building and no ways and means to prosperity. We can continue to blame our leaders without considering the kind of followership we offer. The lack of integrity in the general populace of our country can sometimes be disheartening. But we cannot give up. Let us show by example what we can contribute to make Ghana great and strong." Right. So to have the conversation on our governance system, I have in studio with me Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, who is a UN governance expert and is also the CEO of the J. Ekufuor Foundation. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Then to join us online will be Michael Bwedi, who is a fundraising manager for GII. He'll join us online shortly. But Prof, let's start our conversation. I know you've been an active member of, let me say, an active follower in our society. You've criticized constructively where there need to be. But let me find out from you. I mean, and I know you've lived for a long period. Maybe you saw independence, I guess. If you're to look at Ghana, and if we were to look at Ghana at 68 as a human being, how are you going to describe him? As a 68-year-old man, how are you going to describe his look?
Good question. Thank you. First of all, describing me, I'm a former UN governance advisor. For the expert, I'm not sure I'm an expert. I just say what I believe and, But I was a UN senior governance advisor 10 years ago. Now to your question. First, also let me commend the statement you read from Her Ladyship, Henrietta Mensah Bonsu. I think it's an excellent statement that she issued to children, because certainly our country for all these years have been a country of lamenters. We are all lamenting and putting the blame on everybody else but ourselves. And therefore, at times, you don't know exactly what is happening in our country. So I do appreciate that statement that she issued. Now, to your question of 68-year-old Ghana. And as you rightly said, I'm a bit older than Ghana. So, because I was 7 years old when our independence was granted.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, so I did see with my own eyes some of the festivities in the small village where I used to live. And since then, I've grown through it and I've followed events very closely. At 68, certainly, we could have done better than where we are, because it's easier for us to make the comparison with countries that more or less started with us. And these countries are around the mid-50s to the early 60s. As you may know, are countries mostly in the Southeast Asia, like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, even South Korea. These were countries that more or less became independent around the same time. Ghana 1957, I think Singapore a year or so thereafter. Of course, Thailand wasn't colonized, but in terms of its development, it was very typical third world country at the time. So this is a kind of environment in the mid to late 50s when our country started on its own as an independent country. But if you see these countries I've just mentioned today, you will be shocked.
Yeah.
Actually, I just came from that part of the world barely 2 weeks ago. I spent about 4 or 5 weeks in Thailand. I visited Taiwan. Taiwan also, as you know, was declared independent in the early 50s. All these countries have seen fantastic progress, materially speaking, and I think morally. And these are countries with high discipline. Not that there's no challenges like we have in our country, but they have surmounted many of these challenges and have placed their countries on a very stronger footing in terms of development, manufacturing, export, and infrastructure and all. So if I look at that, then I feel a bit sorry for my country because we have not traveled the same way these Southeast Asian countries have traveled. Having said that, and I'm taking a cue from Her Ladyship Mensah Bonsu, that we better stop the lamentation. The problem is that we had a checkered political track in terms of our history.
Yeah.
After Nkrumah stayed there till 1966, the soldiers came in, kicked him out. Soldiers ruled on and off until finally 92 we got the republic. In between 66 and 92, you know, there was an interregnum, that is short period of governance by the Buzia's government, 1969 to 72. Then Hilal Liman also came in for about 24 months before the 31st December so-called revolution. So that has been our lot.
Right.
And I think that has contributed very much to our inability to put ourselves together as a country for us to have a vision to move on. Since then, since 92, we have had a stable political system, but the economy is still creeping.
We'll come in there to look at it more critically, but I have a line, Mr. Bwedi.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Bwedi. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you.
Yes, I hope you're well, sir.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Happy Independence Day to you also, or should I say a belated Happy Independence Day to you?
Thank you. And I wish same to all your listeners.
Right. Thank you. We're looking at Ghana at 68, and we're looking at the governance system. But the question I just asked Professor Bafo Adjumandua, I would ask you also, that if you were to look at Ghana as a 68-year-old man, how are you going to describe his life or his life story?
I am going to describe a 68-year-old Ghana as a person who has not entirely put in his life in order, and instead of dealing with the fundamental issues, we have resorted to complaining. As people these days, people prefer to use lamenting, and then we have blamed everybody but ourselves. And that is the Ghana at 68. Our story is sad. Our story is difficult our story is difficult to think about. And I'll give you a very practical example. As we speak now, I am at ECG. The office is on Saturdays, I'm told, works between 9 and 2.
Yeah.
It is past 9:30, and there's not a single staff here. Now, these very staff, if they are unemployed, will complain. They don't have jobs. But they have the jobs. Those who have the jobs are messing it up. Sadly, we have weak enforcement and weak supervisory services. So, therefore, these people continue to do these things and get away with it. And then, convenient as it is, the politicians launch on it and blame themselves. And then the political round robbery takes place, so we change. and we keep changing, and we keep changing, and nothing is happening. So the Ghana at 68, we are more like a gyroscope. We spin and spin and spin, but makes no movement. We are just spinning, making a lot of effort, making changes, complaining, but we are not progressing. Why? Because we haven't dealt with the fundamental issues that affect us.
Right.
That's my description of Ghana at 68.
Interesting. Thank you. Now let's go back to, and I'll come to Professor Baffour before I come back to you, Michael. Let's go back to Ghana at 57. We know Kwame Nkrumah ruled from 57 to he was overthrown in 66. Now we know that Nkrumah, he was more of a socialist, or well, if I'm not sure we'll call him a communist. He was more of a socialist.
That's right.
And so there were lots of state-led growth. Do you think, Prof, do you think that us deciding after the coup d'etat to move to a market-driven economy, we have not achieved much, and that maybe we should have thought of the socialist ideals Nkrumah was projecting then? Maybe it's something we should think of today to bring back. Because we are told of the motorways and most of the infrastructure brought by Nkrumah. Do you think the government should start thinking of such ideals today?
Well, my good friend, building motorways and other infrastructure is not necessarily a socialist thing. I mean, capitalist countries also build motorways. They do development.
In terms of from the state.
From the state, yeah, exactly. In fact, even in America, which is the citadel of capitalism, you know that highways are not built by the private sector. It's the state. I mean, the federal government or the state government. So those heavy items, of course, in the U.S., when it comes to electricity, they give it to the private investors. So most of the big powers, there are certain big hydro powers belonging to the state or the federal government, but most of them are privately owned. So that is a private-driven economy. In the case of Nkrumah, at the time of independence, there's no way we could have done that, because there weren't the rich people in the country as such. I mean, to build a motorway, no individual or company in Ghana, Ghanaian company could do. So it was wise for him running the state to get the state resources to be invested in those infrastructure. And I think his plan was very good. Not only roads, but schools, some hospitals, and, you know, all kinds of infrastructure development that he gave. So that was right. After it's over, to your question is to have continued that. Unfortunately, we haven't had a visionary leader like Nkrumah, whose vision, I don't even want to think he was a socialist. He was a humanist. He saw how best this country could progress and just use the instrument of the state to push that, you see. And it's the same today. Even though we don't call it socialist, who builds our roads, who provides water, who provides electricity? It's the government.
But in terms of the consistency, you see that it looks as though Kwame Nkrumah had an agenda.
Yes.
So there was some consistency in what he was doing. But kind of looks like it's quite sparse.
You're right. Nkrumah's agenda was focused. That the state should do A, B, C, D. But things have changed. And I think you're talking about 68 years ago, the environment today was not like then. When Nkrumah was in power, we're talking about a population of about 7-8 million people. Now we're talking about 33 million people. So things have changed. And if you look at on the global scene, the way geopolitics have reshaped the world, your relations. So things are different. But I think within that perspective, we can still be grateful to Nkrumah for his initiatives. But whether if Nkrumah was president today, he could do what he did then, I'm doubtful, because things have changed. That is to say that every generation has its own development agenda. Every generation has a way of approaching its development. His generation, across the continent of Africa, that was the approach. Nyerere, I can mention many of them. That was the approach. But things have changed. Things changing doesn't mean that we should not do what he tried to do. We can still do it within our present context. So I think my point here is that the leaderships we are getting since Nkrumah, I don't think have been able to project that kind of vision that he had, that kind of dynamism, that ability to capture people's imagination, mobilize people, for people to follow, and that is what we have been missing. Since then, I don't see any real focus on our development. Governments come, governments go. They come with their own thing, and the next one comes and reverses things. So we'll be marching time, as I think my friend said earlier.
But assuming Nkrumah hadn't been overthrown, if we take, let's say, Singapore, the Lee Kuan Yew approach, he handled them for a long period.
Yes.
He managed to establish his vision and agenda until when it was time for him to exit, they just had to continue it in light of modernity.
That's right.
So assuming Nkrumah hadn't been overthrown in 66, do you think Ghana would have been better?
That's a very interesting question you are raising. And I have considered longevity of governments as one of the critical factors for development.
Yeah.
You see, Lee Kuan Yew was there like 26 years.
Yes.
Mahathir of Malaysia was there 22 years. Yeah. What else? You can mention these countries.
Yes.
You see that there was a focus, concentrated, sustained development efforts for a long period.
Do what they wanted to do within the period.
Precisely, before they retired.
Before they retired, yes.
After which the country...
And even currently we have, what's the Rwanda?
Kagame.
Kagame. Who is doing same. You see that he has an agenda, running with it.
Precisely.
Maybe his time will come that he'll leave, but at least you would have been able to establish what he wants to do.
You made my day today by raising that point, because it's been one of the key issues I'm trying to get to the public.
Yeah.
That in a way, maybe we can look at our difficulties today after 32 years of our republic, fourth republic.
Yeah.
That the constant changes and reverses could be part of our difficulties. Because as you said, Lee Kuan Yew for 26 to 28 years was able to establish the country, put it in a path that has become irreversible.
Yeah.
He instilled some discipline in governance, corruption, and all those things were stamped out. Not that they were not there, but he developed a system that controlled it. If you go to other countries of similar approaches, we find the same.
Yeah.
So maybe part of our problem today is a system that requires regular changes, that requires that each one coming in present his own manifesto, and based on that you win and you try to do. So there is no foresight, there is no consistency, there is no national focus, you see.
Yeah.
And I think that has become a major, major, major problem that we have. So if Nkrumah has stayed on, as you asked, and he was able to be consistent in what he was going to do, I think we could have come close to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But mind you, the political context different. Lee Kuan Yew was able to get opposition people to come along with him.
Yeah.
So even though there were some dissenting voices, they were controlled and they were cooperating. Nkrumah didn't have
but
that.
In getting them to come along, wasn't just the use of a strong hand?
Combination of strong hand, what we call carrot and sticks.
Yeah.
A combination of strong hand and appeasement and all that.
Right.
Lee Kuan Yew did not throw his opponents into detention. You could leave the country, but he never did.
Yeah.
In Ghana, that's the opposite under Nkrumah.
Yeah.
Opponents were thrown to someone. You see, so the politics that a leader pursues has a way to determine whether or not you achieve, people will support you to achieve your aims. You cannot be a leader and constantly your people are fighting you. So your ability to build a country, unify your people behind you. Of course, there will be always some instances of dissent and opposition. That's normal. But this organized opposition, including the use of bombs and all that, that was not what would have allowed Nkrumah to achieve his goals.
I'd go to Michael shortly, but let me find out, since you're talking of longevity, do you agree? I think President Kufuor, in his last State of Nations address to Parliament, he recommended that if possible, we should extend the term of the president maybe to 5 years, because in his mind, by the time the president will be settling in to start working, it's almost time for elections.
That's right.
You also have to go and campaign.
Yes.
And so we don't have that freedom to develop. Will you agree? Or will you also recommend something similar?
I agree totally. I agree. And even the 5 years may be a little bit too short. But you see, when you raise this question, then there's a counter question about what about if the person is not good?
It's not,
Do
exactly.
you keep him for that long?
Exactly.
But I will say, look, it will mean that if you shift the time to 6 years or whatever, then you create a system where the checks and balances are stronger, including the possibility of a recall or impeachment, whatever, to ensure that if you are president, you do what the people want. So there are certain checks, but certainly 4 years like the Americans have it is not good for us. 4 years, how much can you accomplish?
Yeah.
So I do agree with the former president.
Right. Michael, let me also hear from you. Do you think that the ideals of Kwame Nkrumah, I still want to call it the socialist ideals he pursued, do you think there's something we can look at today?
Well, I think that, you see, we always talk about this binary, the capitalism, socialism.
Yeah.
As the world progresses, they look at the center left and then the center right. And what it tells us is that there is no fixed ideology that develops any country. It is a permutation of the ideologies that gets us going. But our problem is that, you see, if you take all these countries, say you take America, where they have the Republicans, and then we have the, what you call them, you go to the UK, you have
Democrats.
the Labour, yes, you have the Labour, you have the Conservatives, and the likes. Even though they have this binary ideology, there is one thing that defines them. You come to America, they have what they call the American dream. And everything they do is focusing at unleashing individual capacities. It is focused on building systems. It is not about an individual. It is not about what an individual necessarily can do. But it is about how you make the system deliver on your vision. And irrespective of who comes, Trump or Biden, you would realize that they have certain orientation that is focused, that is consistent, that cuts through. What we have failed to do, or what we continue to do to ourselves, is that if it is MPP and the NDC comes, everything MPP does is wrong, is bad. So we recycle, or we reinvent the wheel. And then 8 years would have gone down the drain. Then we do another set of planning, and then we continue. By 8 years, the governance arrangement changes, and then another set come, and then also dismantle everything. So we are marking time. It is the focus is not too clear, and we keep, doing things bizarre. Look at what we did with our education, the JSS. This thing, 4 years, 3 years thing.
Yeah, senior high.
Now look at what the debate that is going on with the free SHS. There is no clarity as to what we need to do. If let's say, if we take the free SHS, if there are challenges with funding, the thinking should be, how do we engineer a funding mechanism model that ensures that the policy, which we all agree is a good policy, remain, yet it is perfected. Because you see, the free SHS, for instance, is delivering quality, is supposed to deliver quality and also access.
Yeah.
So we realize that, well, on one breast, the access is being delivered, but the quality is suffering. How do we elevate the quality? That is where the discourse should go. But here again, you would see, as we go back and forth, we will dismantle everything. Curriculums will be dismantled, teachers will be retooled or trained, and then 4 or 8 years will come and we've not done any fundamental change. So that is the problem. I cannot disagree or agree with Professor Bafo's issue about longevity, because, I mean, obviously, he has had more governmental experience than I do. And he's more read than I am. So he has a basis and experience to back it up. I think that in addition to what longevity or the time scale, there must be consistency in ideology or policy, irrespective of which ideology you would use to implement the policy. There must be a clarity of goal and a purpose that we are driving this country to. The way things stand now, it is so murky, it is so confusing, and everybody comes to it. The other thing is that if you look at the Lee Kuan Yew, what Lee Kuan Yew didn't do any magic. What he did was to put in place systems. So the systems will fight you when you want to be corrupt. The systems will deal with it, and he was committed to ensuring that the system work.
Yeah.
The financial arrangement that he put in place, he did not carry money and shared it. He put in place systems that ensures that they will have a certain financial backbone where they would be able to benefit. The investment that will come thereof will benefit. When Lee Kuan Yew supported private business people, they don't ask which color or which party you belong to.
Yeah.
So long as you have an innovation that will project the country and will create employment and wealth for its people, they supported you. So this is what is lacking. Whether we decide to extend the tenure of government or we decide to maintain what we have, what we need to do is to have clarity in what we want to do and put in place the system, the mechanism that will be strictly enforced.
Right.
Other than that, we will get nowhere. We will change, we will experiment, we will import policies, and then implement it anyhow. And then again, we are back to nowhere.
Right. But let me ask you a very bold question. I've seen recently on social media that people have been commenting, the NDC came, they failed us, MPP came, they failed us, everybody is failing us. Now it looks like there's a section of the youth who are pushing for us to have a military government, because the understanding is the military government that can introduce the discipline we need. What do you have to say to that?
Well, we've had military governments. We had Achampong, Akufu, President Rawlings.
Yeah.
They did deliver. So it is not the government style or approach. It is the thinking, it is the mindset, it is the skill, it is the experience, it is the focus, the drive. I mean, look, I'm telling you, we, the citizens themselves, we have ourselves to be blamed. Who are jumping the red lights? Who are staying home and not working? Who are taking the bribes? So there is a certain mindset and orientation that we need the leadership to drive people away from and reorient them to do the right thing. Other than that, I don't think we're going to make any progress.
Yeah, but is it not this reorientation that they call for? Yes, that man in uniform with a rod, who, when you jam the traffic, we are not coming to have too many discussions, you are punished. And in fact, you can see how people have applauded the leader in Burkina Faso. Well, people think that he's doing something great, maybe because they think he's in uniform. Is that not the reason why people think that we need that strict man who, when you jam the red, we are not going to pay bribe anywhere, you are just punished because he's a man of uniform?
Well, evidence shows that approach does not work. It's not sustainable.
Right.
Because when the man is no more, what happens?
Right.
Yeah. When the man is no more, what happens? What we are calling for is a more sustainable approach where you build institutions and build rules and ensure that those institutions function and function properly, so that when the man is no more, the new man that comes will function within that same institutional arrangement.
Very well, very well. Thank you. Prof, I'll move to you. You're still looking at military government. Do you think, I mean, having lived across the period, do you think that the military governments we had, there was any benefit we got from them? Did they introduce anything new that we may have to rethink, starting from the 66
NLC,
coup, the NLC, Ankara, Afrifa, and the rest?
There's a general, what I would call a blanket statement I will make to start with, which is that we do not need a military government. And I agree with my good friend Boadi that none of the military regimes we have had, and we have had 4 of them, really proved themselves to be better than civilians. So bringing back military is not. And I think Ghanaian armed forces are not even interested after their own experiences in the past. I don't think they're interested. But there's something that we need to put our fingers on. And I think my good friend alluded to that in many ways. That is the mindset of Ghanaians. Because it seems to me that is the mindset that a leader is able to instill in the people that helps the leader, that helps to drive the national agenda. And mindset, as I see it in our country, is universally Ghanaian, and therefore, if you are Ghanaian and you come into leadership with the same mindset that all of us have, generally speaking, then you're not going to do anything dramatically different from the past. You see, all the countries that have succeeded in development, especially the East Asian countries, there's 2 cardinal things I'll make. One is the integrity of leadership, and 2 is the discipline of leadership. And these 2 values being successfully pushed down to the populace. In other words, introducing these values and enforcing them amongst your people. Look, when Henry Quartey became regional minister for Greater Accra,
yes,
I live in Adenta.
Yeah.
He introduced something that was fascinating. If you drive by the Congo, we call Zongo Junction, always the pedestrians are all over the place.
The road was always choked.
Thank you. He came in, did some construction to separate, and then started with certain officers who will stop you from crossing, directing you to go and use the pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
It went on for a while. Then he also brought this idea of sanitation, you can't drive and blah, blah, blah. It also went on for a while. Today, go by, I came through that part. Today, it's back to 0. And I can cite so many instances where our leaders try to do something, to use your word, they are not sustainable.
Yeah.
Because the Ghanaian mindset has not been changed yet. And look, and I'm waiting to see, the people who are alleged to have stolen Ghana money, I'm anxious to see how the end comes in terms of whether there are prosecutions, imprisonment, or whatever. Because Ghanaian mindset is that when somebody does wrong, if you are not careful, the one who is seeking to do right will become the victim.
But I think this one, there's the presidential approach that is going to bring a finality to it.
Well, whatever shape it takes, expect that Ghanaian, either the chiefs or people of influence, will go to the doors of the president, of the minister, blah, blah, to the inspector general. This is our own son. It happens all the time. When a party member does wrong and the police arrest the person, what do we see on the streets? The whole party will put on red bands. Both parties do that.
Yeah.
And march to the headquarters and impress upon the IGP or whoever is in charge to let go. So in the end, the case becomes a stupid case. This has been happening over the years, over the decades. That's the Ghanaian mindset I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's not that Ghanaians are different from others. If you read Lee Kuan Yew's writings, you will see how challenging it was. There's a story I still remember from his book. Singapore is a small island.
Yeah.
And they have to build upwards, that is say skyscrapers, to maximize space.
The land space.
He says that when he started doing that, he told his people that that's where you are going to live. But you see, that time, Chinese, they like pork. So there were a lot of pork farmers, poultry farmers were in pork. He said, okay, feel free to carry your pigs to the 80th floor or the 20th floor. He didn't stop them. And truly, some of the farmers carried their pigs to the floor that they've been assigned.
Yeah.
But after some few days, they learned themselves that they cannot live with pigs on the 20th, 40th, 15th floor. So gradually, that mindset dissipated. You see, interesting story. Because anything you want to do new in Ghana, you are going to get opposition.
Yeah.
You see, so the mindset has been one of the key issues you need to find a way to change, either through education, through enforced discipline. And by the way, I don't know any leader who has enforced discipline in this country more than Jerry Rawlings. For Horden, people were caned publicly. Women were stripped naked and caned between their legs. These are historical facts. People were imprisoned. People were beaten. Through all that, even before he left office, we had come back to zero. He couldn't control it again. So I think our problem needs some real critical appraisal for us to begin to put our finger on what is wrong with the Ghanaian that makes it difficult for even a leader with the good intentions in the end fails. So I think here is not NDC and PP matter. It's a Ghanaian issue. So we need a leader who can stand above that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Come and introduce the new vision with this kind of disciplined approach and enforce it and withstand the heat that will come from the people. If you don't get such a leader, Nkrumah was different. Nkrumah got the heat from a different angle. But in his time, accounts will say Bajimibre. But today we have thousands and thousands of lawyers. Every Ghanaian is smart. We have highly educated people, and it's the same highly educated people who cause the problem.
Yeah.
You see, in fact, somebody has said it nicely elsewhere, that it seems like education today is producing thieves. So the more you get educated, the higher you go, the better thief you become. Because all the corruption that is happening that we are bemoaning is not by my mother who never went to school, not by your, it's the educated lawyers, accountants, professors, you name them. Yeah. So I think we need to have a serious, very serious review of our educational system. And here I'm coming back to Nkrumah. When Nkrumah's young pioneers started teaching young people patriotism, love of country, I'm a former young pioneer, I have to tell you.
Oh, I see.
Yes, you see, it became different.
Right, thank you. Michael, let me take you before I take a short commercial break. What will you say to Ghana at age of 68? What do you have to say to Ghana, Michael? Oh, sorry, I think I've lost Michael. We'll try and get him back.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But then we'll take a short break here. When we come back, we'll continue with looking at how we can fix the problems of Ghana. Stay tuned. It's still the focus on Z 101.9 FM.
Z 101.9 FM. You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM. Your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Gidi bacha dwichi to kuni me arajwa na kumago. Bofe boni henyela ba fe makuze mabashi ako manyi gano fena na baye. Shina kumago. Bofe bono ba fe makuze mabaye. Shina kumago. Shi arajwa bote no baye. Shina kumago. Abele.
Zed 101.9 FM.
Gidi bacha dwichi to kuni me arajwa na kumago. Bofe boni henyela ba fe makuze mabashi ako manyi gano fena baye. Shina kumago. Shi arajwa bote no baye. Shina kumago. Arajwa tete no bo baye. Shina kumago. Abele.
You're tuned in to Zed 101.9 FM. Leisure and Business Radio.
One friend I will Abankaba, one ton will go. Abankaba, or just spare part. Abankaba, one friend check. Hey, Monsieur, my Abankaba, Damesa. We are chin, wasting you see the bedroom. The fear be some death. Puni under me, the fear yet. Again, the fear young check. Abankaba, Damesa. Come and make another seminar. Come and make another seminar. I want Kana Mosopa. I want Kana Mosopa. I want Kana Mosopa. I want Kana Banika Badamisa. If you are not Jam Popundamisa. Bishop, when you just stop prescription, one watch. I couldn't ask some more catching you for that. Yile mentasi Sunday yile onion or the yile Abanka Bada one side. Come and make another seminar. Come and make another seminar. I want Kana Musuma Tankan Abanka Bada.
Welcome back. Still the focus on Z101.9 FM. We're having a conversation on Ghana, our governance system after 68 years of independence, and have with me in studio Professor Bafo Ajibendria. You can join us on social media. We are streaming live on Facebook on ZFMGH. You can also send to us your comments on 0544-321019. And send us your comments on our WhatsApp number 0544-321019. Prof, we'll continue our conversation on again drawing back from the systems we've had previously. And I want us to look at the Champon government. I mean, in fact, that Echamuga has been criticized severally. There are a lot of funny quotes. I don't know whether they were true. They were told he went at a point to KNUST and he says it's called Kumasi Legon. And in fact, even to this, there are a lot of people still refer checkers Kumasi Legon and all that. Do you think that there's the Acheampong regime did something good for us we should learn from? Because there's a widespread rumor even that he was very corrupt because we are told of the Fao Tubeji Golf saga that he would, we're told he had numerous, should we say, paramours, that when he has an affair with you, he gives you a golf. I know you've done a lot of research in that area. In fact, that story, is it true?
You know, Ghana is a very interesting country, and the kinds of politics we do. When a set of people decide to put you aside, they will throw every possible missile at you to destroy you. Nkrumah suffered the same. Nkrumah, after his overthrow, was demonized. And here I'm not going to just hold Acheampong as if he's an angel.
Yeah.
But I've done a serious work on him because of these, what I consider to be unfair treatment of our past leaders, especially Acheampong.
Yeah.
You see, the NLC period, we can dismiss it because they came with the sole purpose of handing over in 3 years. So it was an interim arrangement. And in fact, 3 years they left the scene and for Buzia government to come.
Yeah.
It was Acheampong's government that came into power January 1972 that showed a serious commitment to development. Akufo didn't have much time to display.
Yeah.
After him, then, Rawlings had a standard time. The PNDC was like 11 years.
Yeah.
I like to say that, in fact, if any leader of Ghana had a chance to develop the country on the basis of longevity as we discussed,
Yeah.
Rawlings should have made Ghana better than it is because he was there for 19 years, 11 years as an absolute dictator with the PNDC, then 8 years as an elected president.
Not counting the 3 months.
No, I'm even discounting that. If you add it, then you're talking about almost 19, 20 years.
20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was an interim 6 months. He didn't do much. So let's forgive him for that.
Yeah.
But 11 years at PNDC, 8 years as an elected president. And you think back and tell me what you can refer to. Because this issue of accountability, probity, that was his mantle. Even in his own time, it wasn't enforced. And I don't think since then his own party has enforced it the way it ought to. You see? So these are the facts as I know them.
Yeah.
So if you take Acheampong, coming back to your question, he was there for almost 7 years. And people underestimate soldiers. That's one thing I've discovered, especially those days, because we conceive of soldiers as not highly educated, uncouth, didn't know what to do, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But today you go back to listen to some tapes, speeches of Acheampong, and listen to the kind of English that he speaks.
Yeah.
You notice that he's better than some professors and PhDs today in the country.
Yeah.
Just his oral skills.
Yeah.
Because in the military, at the time, they didn't call them universities. But if you go to Sandhurst, if you go to India, if you go to America, as he did, all these are like university level education.
Yeah.
And he went to the highest. So he was highly educated, one thing. In terms of his behavior, corrupt and all, from the research that I did not discover, because after his overthrow, they investigated him. They could not establish an iota of truth in the allegations of corruption. Why? First, they discovered that his only house was built in his hometown, which is still there. He introduced Dansoman Estates, Teshinungwe Estate for soldiers. He never had one. A corrupt person could have had 4 houses. Today, the young people in politics today, They buy West Hills, millions of dollars they do. Young people who never did any job besides politics. Okay? So when you look back and look at those days and Acheampong and his colleagues and all, some were corrupt, and Acheampong could have been corrupt, just that we haven't established it. Okay? Then this idea of Tubeji, his time.
That was really widespread. In fact, that was one of the biggest corruption scandals that he was hit with.
His enemies used that story to destroy him, forgetting that that Beetle, that Volkswagen that became Tubeji, was assembled in Ghana. People are forgetting that in the 70s, we were assembling Volkswagen, which is now back again.
Yeah.
We are assembling Toyota. We are assembling BMW.
Yeah.
Okay, in Ghana. And because they were locally assembled, they were cheaper. And the women at the time, Makola women and other traders, were more enterprising than the men. So the women newly arrived, or what you may call the new nouveau rich, the rich, they were able to buy the cars. So how can you think of one man going to bed with 1,000 women and giving each of them cars? You see. But if you look at history,
Professor, are you saying that story was not true?
Oh, my brother, that's why I'm giving an example. Even if there were 500 women with the cars, are you suggesting that he went to bed with all the 5 to give them Volkswagen?
Maybe some of them. Maybe some of the women were able to afford.
Sure.
Some else, maybe a majority of them.
Let's put it this way.
He gave it to them for free.
Let's put it this way, in a very blunt way.
Yeah.
Any man of influence and power today, if you are not careful, women will flood around you. And if you like women, you go to bed. That is a fact. Politicians, leaders, any position of authority that a man gets, if you are not careful, you get corrupted by women. So I'm not saying that he didn't like women, because that would be stupid on my part to say. So it's likely, like you say, 1, 2, even 10 women may have gotten cars from him. No evidence though, but let's grant that that happened.
Yeah.
You see, so those things were around, and I don't hide away. But importantly, I have to stress that his last 2 or so years, Ghanaian economy sunk. The economy ran aground. Hardships occurred. The currency just dropped. Those were the things that really made a lot of people angry and disenchanted and called for his overthrow. So certainly, in his last 2 years, the country faced serious economic challenges. I don't know whether it's the same today or not. I don't know.
But then, I mean, I know he had some good policies on Operation Feed Yourself and what have you. Does it mean that it was not enough to sustain us even from economic hardship?
You see, if you go to his development initiatives, it's one of the best I've ever seen. In fact, between 1973, 74, 75, Ghana never never imported rice. We produced enough rice with Operation Feed Yourself, so much so that we were selling rice to our neighboring countries.
Because now I know the President Mahama, as part of the State of Nations address, was calling for us cutting down on imports, instead of chicken and the rest.
Every government comes in, they make those pronouncements, and I'm praying that this time we get it right.
Okay.
That we have been spending so much money, energy, resources on rice cultivation, and what did the Kufuor government call it? Planting for food and jobs.
Yeah, for food and jobs.
We wasted so much money, we're still importing rice. So let's pray that this time we get it right.
But how did Acheampong, sorry for cutting, how did Acheampong implement that Operation Feed Yourself that you think that this government can learn from?
You see, Acheampong, despite his later mistakes, was able to mobilize people. When he introduced Operation Feed Yourself, it was voluntary. He didn't pump money. He appealed to the people. If you are around at the time in Accra, you go to Burma Camp and other place, Airport Residential. That time, East Legon wasn't born. There was no East Legon. Yeah. People were planting their own food at their backyard. That's what he said. And he did the same at his backyard at Arakan Barracks. He said, look, There's no need to throw our money importing food that we can produce, because the essence of his governance was what you call self-reliance.
Yeah.
Ghana should be able to rely on itself and avoid spending money on areas that will not be productive.
Yeah.
You see, that is what a champion did. And it caught fire with the people.
Right.
And truly, it happened. That time, tomato production, garden eggs, plantain, all over the country. And that is what President Mahama, if that's what he wants to bring back, I'm with him 100%. Because there's no point Ghana sitting here on this land and importing tomatoes from Burkina Faso, a desert, importing all these kind of onions from Chad on a desert, and we are here. So we need that kind of leadership to change the political economy of our country.
Yeah.
So I will support Mahama wholeheartedly if he's able to revive that spirit and get Ghanaians to be more productive than consumptive.
Yeah, but now you know that our external debts are also extremely high. When we go back to Acheampong, he had this policy of, is it Yintua? Where, and I know it came at a huge backlash. I mean, he was, I don't know whether he was sanctioned externally, but I presume so.
Interestingly, that time when we talk of national debt, it was just around $320 million.
Right.
Which is, in the scheme of things, no money.
Yeah.
And he said to affect about $96 million.
Yeah.
Because these were debts that they discovered were tainted with corruption.
Also, it wasn't his entire external debt.
No. It was $320 million.
Okay.
Out of which 96 was found to have been tainted with corruption in terms of the contracts that people had signed previously.
Okay.
And he took that bold decision. But
corruption from who? From our
From
end?
previous governments. You know,
so
like
from our
you
end.
go for a debt, you go and sign a contract, like we still do today.
Yeah.
And they get some kickbacks. So instead of maybe 20 million, you come back, you say it's 30 million.
30 million, right.
Corruption has been with us since Nkrumah's time.
Right.
So when he discovered that, I said no. And he was able to withstand the international creditors that this was wrong. They even took him to international court. They lost, you see. And interestingly, after that, Acheampong is known today to be the only leader of a country who never secured a debt, loan.
Is it?
He never secured a loan from anywhere in the world. It's on the record.
He took
never,
no loan from an international body.
He never.
So it means that for his government, for that period, there was no loan.
Go to the records. Go to Bank of Ghana. And I did all this, so I'm not sitting here blabbling about Acheampong. He's not my saint. He's not my father. But when the truth is there, you've got to say it.
Right.
I checked the record. He never took a loan from anywhere for the 7 years. You see.
So how is he financing his government?
Internally generated. You see, if President Mahama can get Ghanaians to do what Acheampong did, Operation Feed Yourself.
Yeah.
Food importation alone today, you go to the statistics. Food importation is about, I don't know, but let's check with the Ghana Statistical Service. They will give us the figure. But if I'm not exaggerating, at least 30 to 40% of our imports are for food. And that's a lot of money. So if you're able to save that alone, you may not need a loan to build a new road to Kumasi. You see, because right now, we are paying our debts, and debt payment alone takes about, at times we borrow to pay the interest on the debts.
Yeah. Even the interest sometimes higher than the debt.
It doesn't make
itself.
sense.
Yeah.
But that's where we are.
Yeah.
So we need to quickly revise the way we do our things to make sure this country becomes solvent.
That's interesting. It looks like the Acheampong government, from what you're saying, from your research, there's a lot more they have done, but just because of this, well, as you call it, propaganda of Fatou Beji Gulf, nobody paid attention to him.
Ghanaians, as you know, most of us, including myself, we are lazy, we don't like to read, we only like to talk. So people talk without knowing what they're talking about, but they are accepted. Because the records are there. The records are there.
Yeah.
And again, let me repeat, I'm not saying he was an angel.
Yeah.
He made a lot of mistakes.
But then speaking of the mistakes, if he had all these, he wasn't taking external debt, he had homegrown policies. Why did we enter into economic difficulties?
Because towards his last 2 years, the Operation Feed Yourself was going down.
Okay.
Because he wasn't taking loans, there wasn't enough internally generated funds to sustain the domestic programs.
Okay.
You see, in other situations, a president will go and borrow. He could have gone out to say, I'm going to take a $200 million loan.
Yeah.
And he could have saved himself, but he did not. And of course, certain policies, I think, lose inability to check excesses of his own appointed ministers who are all military and all. You find that the economy simply could not stick. So it wasn't sustainable in that respect. But that is not to say there wasn't a period of bright light that was shown on the country by his policies.
Right. Interesting. Prof, now let's come back to our country. Currently, it looks like we have all the policies against corruption, but one of our biggest headaches now is corruption. And I know you've done a lot of work with also these anti-corruption agencies and, work in that space. What do you think? How can we go around this corruption issue?
You know, frankly, you can get tired talking about corruption because it's something we've been talking about since Nkrumah's time, and it's worse today. And I'm beginning to think maybe the kind of education we get is part of the problem, as I said earlier, because the more we get educated people, the more corruption we get. Our accountants who are supposed to do the accounting, they become corrupt. They use their knowledge to defraud the people. Lawyers use their legal knowledge to avoid, or to protect people who get corrupt. So in other words, everybody is protecting the corrupt people, the corrupt system. So we have to find a new way of doing that. Again, drawing on Singapore experience, look, the leader, if the leader is straight, is a leader of integrity, and is able to take action against his own people, is the beginning of fighting corruption. You, the leader, must be clean, a person of integrity, and disciplined. And if your loved, your best minister is found to be corrupt, even if it's 100 cedis, quickly take action and dismiss the person. If he deserves to go to jail, let him go. If Muhammad did that, 1, 2, 3, you see what will happen in the country.
But isn't the issue more endemic? Because, you see, especially because of how we bring our leaders into power, there's campaign which calls for huge money. Maybe I might have financed your campaign with maybe all my assets. Now I come for, maybe I just pick just some 1 million, you're going to throw me in jail, Prof. The next time I'm not going to finance you again.
You see the complexity of the problem.
Yeah.
You said it right. Our politics itself is corrupted.
Yeah.
So again, if you monetize democracy the way we have, then the result is what? Corruption. If you monetize everything you have to do as a leader, as a people, then the end result, the outcome, is corruption because somebody has to recoup the investment. That tells you that we need to restructure our politics. Look, people think democracy is all about elections, so you pump money into the electoral system and we have elections, somebody get elected, then we are democratic. We are not getting the benefit, what you call the democratic dividend. So I guess your question raises a larger question, first of how complex corruption is, and secondly, how endemic, because it doesn't end at the level of politicians. Corruption cuts across everywhere in our society. Yeah. Of course, we have what we call the grand corruption, people in power taking millions out of contracts and the petty corruption policeman by the roadside collecting CD or 5 CDs. Petty versus the grand, but all are corruption.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Professor Prempe, has made his point about corruption, that to tackle corruption, there's what we call the motive, your motive to steal, and the opportunity to use that motive to steal. So if you do away with the opportunity, then that motive will be, kaput. It can't act. So there are all kinds of things. Okay, so recently, by the way, we had the Office of Special Prosecutor. He did a press conference. If we heard him,
yeah,
it's like almost the way I understood him. It's a useless case. I mean, he doesn't even know how to tackle it because everybody is corrupt, and people are coming after his life. So how do we deal with that? That's why I'm saying that for me, it should start from the top. If a president is able to, that's one thing I think Akufo-Addo failed. If you're able to hold your minister, whether it's your cousin, your brother, whatever, responsible, hold him to account and face the consequences. You do that 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what will happen in the country. It will reverberate all the way down.
But he started with, is it Honorable Boache Jacko? So President Nana Addo, former President Nana. You know when that, what's the name of that contract? The Ameri deal, when he thought that he had deceived him. He immediately fired him.
Well, it wasn't announced as such. Let's be honest.
Right.
If somebody is corrupt and you fire, let the public know this person stole this much or signed a fraudulent contract, has been sacked. Was it announced like that?
Well, it wasn't. And in fact, Honorable has also come out to also explain
he wasn't corrupt.
He wasn't corrupt.
So where is the truth? Is that what Akufo-Addo said or what the Honorable is saying? That's what I'm saying. If you look at Singapore, how this guy dealt with corruption. Even last year, a minister of transport in Singapore went for a conference somewhere. And somehow, I think a petty amount, I think $1.5 million, I don't know exactly why. He came back. It was announced that he's been caught in that, dismissed and put on trial. As I speak to you, he's in jail. That's how you fight corruption. But not when somebody does wrong. He's my cousin, he's my uncle, dada, and the chiefs will put on their big clothes and walk to your house or your office and say, that's our nana. Yeah, nana, no. Yeah, office, no. They will cripple the president. It happens every day in this country. You mark on the wall how many people, if in fact what NDC is saying is true, that they've discovered this corruption, A, B, C, D, 10, mark it on the wall, how many they will be able to put away. Because I remember when Mahama was in power his first term, NPP trumpeted the same thing, that they are corrupt, will put them in jail.
Yeah.
How many went to jail? You see, we are playing a game. We are playing a game. We are not serious.
That's interesting.
And these are facts. The NPP, was it 8 years, they could not put one person in jail. Now a new government comes, he set them free. They'll say, why do you set them free? You had 8 years to try and jail them. You couldn't.
Oh, they did. I mean, they put a few.
Who are the few?
Atuesian. Atuesian was put in jail by the Nana Addo guy. And I think the Opuni trial, if I recall.
Even today, they are calling for his release. People are petitioning that, what's the name? Mahama should set him free. Haven't you read that petition?
No, I have.
Okay.
Interesting. But Prof, maybe let me just take your, let me ask this last question. We'll go on a break. Then maybe when we wrap up, we'll take your final words.
Okay.
This system of the winner takes it all, what do you think? This governance system looks like we shift entirely from NPP. When NDC wins, everything moves from NPP. All ideas moves away from NPP. We move to NDC. What do you think of such a system?
It's a system I have personally berated publicly. Berated. In other words, I've said it's not good.
Yeah.
And I'll say it and say it again. And I'm hoping that the new Constitutional Review Committee will take a critical look at that if they really want to change the fortunes of this country.
Yeah.
The winner takes all simply means if you win by 50+1 majority, you have complete control of the country, the state.
And all resources.
Of course, everything at your disposal.
Yeah.
A president can appoint about 7,000 people, all the way down to the local assembly, where even president representatives are appointed to the district assemblies.
Yeah.
Which makes decentralization nonsense.
Yeah.
You see, so the winner takes all, in my view, is one of the key issues we need to attack. Winner takes all inherently is exclusive, right? It's exclusive only for those who won.
Yeah.
And therefore, it doesn't even support national unity. It doesn't bring people together. That's why after every election, when there's a change in government, we have problems. When NPP came into power 2016, 2017, we saw NPP followers thinking, oh, our government is here, so they run into offices, we are going to take over, we run after cars.
Yeah.
The same thing has happened this time, right?
Yeah.
Running, seizing offices, vehicles, and all, because it's ours. And that is because of this winner takes all. So I think we should seriously think of a system that builds consensus. If we were to do a proportional representation, for instance, then all the small parties, some of them will be able to get into power. If we were to do serious decentralization and devolve power to the districts, where people will elect their own DCs to be followed by fiscal, that is financial decentralization, where at the district level people can have elections, can develop, then people will be interested in district assemblies. Democracy then will start at the district level, not at the national level. You don't finish university and quickly join a party, run your mouth louder and louder and louder. If your party wins, you become a minister with no experience behind you.
Yeah.
But if we were to have effective democracy at the grassroots, where even the assembly membership is elected, people can learn to cut their teeth at the district level before they graduate to the national level. And then we are building a broader spectrum for politicians. It will reduce corruption also, in my view. We can discuss that later. So I guess all I'm saying is that the winner takes all is a bad system. For us, if it's good for some other countries, we are not obliged to have it also, because democracy gives room for individual countries to develop their own practices, so far as you respect the universal principles of freedom and liberties.
Right. Prof says that the winner takes it all system is a bad system.
It's a bad system.
And we'll have to rather introduce a system which builds consensus. Thank you very much. We're still on the focus at Z101.9 FM. We'll take a short breather. When we come back, we'll put a spotlight on an excellent Ghanaian who is causing massive change in our community. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to Z101.9 FM.
Da da, Gabobaya, 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 da da, da da da, Minta Mali, Uraidi, Gawe Bife, Gabobaya, 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 da da. Da 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 minta male, ora idi gewe bife, gebobaya, gebobaya, gebobaya da da, Da 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 mi da male. Alrighty, get we be fan. Ingo baya idie, ingo baya, get baya da da.
Z 101.9 FM.
Still the focus on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. For our spotlight segment today, we have, as I mentioned earlier, a gentleman who is causing great change in Ghana currently. I dare say that he's one of the upcoming change makers we've always been dreaming of. His name is Gideon Denjo. Gideon, you're welcome.
Thank you. Kwaku. Thanks for having me.
Right. So can you tell us who is Gideon and what is Gideon doing in our community?
Oh, thank you. I think Gideon has a decade experience in the leather value chain. He started his journey when he was in the university as a way to take off the financial burden of his parents because he was the firstborn. And through that, he realized that there were other people within the community that could also benefit from his business. And so along the line, when he was studying, he realized that there was a material called conveyor belt as part of his engineering studies. And he realized that he could harness the potential of that material for the soles of shoes. And so that's how the whole brand Gideon started. And that is what makes Gideon. Right.
So the name of the brand is Giddens.
Giddens.
Giddins.
Yeah.
Okay, now take us to your journey. I mean, so what do you do? Why did you come to the conclusion of doing that particular thing? And what has been your experience, doing business in Ghana?
I think I've mentioned some. I was trying to take off the financial burden of my parents as a student and to live comfortably on campus. I'm sure we all on campus that we knew that there were certain things you couldn't just ask your parents for.
So by campus, you mean the university?
The University of Ghana, yes.
Okay.
I did food process engineering.
Okay.
And so along the line, I was trying to look for ways and businesses I could do on campus.
Okay.
And interestingly, there was a course in my study, strength of materials.
Okay.
And there was a material called conveyor belt, which were mostly used by mining companies, manufacturing companies to transport one food product to the other.
Right.
But as part of their safety protocols, they had to discard some of them.
Right.
And I realized that looking at the robustness of that material, I could use that for the soles of shoes to sell to students because they were very strong and could last longer for students, right? Because students really have money to buy shoes, not to talk of shoes that will not last.
Okay.
So I researched more on the material. I was in second year by then.
Okay.
I told my brother about it. That
so this was like a very young guy at that time?
Yeah, I think I was 20.
Right.
And told him to look for local artisans in Kumasi for me because I found a new material that I want to, try. So he had to do that for me. The following weekend, I traveled to Kumasi. I went to talk to the shoemakers. That, look, I need you to do this for me. I found this. Let's look for this and do that. And I think, interestingly, they were happy about it. We did the first 5 pairs, and I brought it to campus. I sold it to my course mate. I ordered for 20. It came within a week. I sold it.
Yes,
I ordered for another 20. I sold it within a week. Then I ordered for 65 pairs. Interestingly, at the time, I think Prof. Aite was the Vice Chancellor, who said that now you can divide your school fees and pay half, and pay the remaining the following semester because parents were agitating that their fees were so high. Luckily for me, my parents had given me everything, but I took a portion of it to start the business. So that's how I started, and I plowed back the money into the business, and I was able to pay off the second part of my fees. I will say that the journey hasn't been easy, but I had a very strong, let's say, customer base on campus because they had interest in it, and it also served them well because they were able to use it for more than 2 years and beyond. And so that was how the whole idea of Gideon started.
Right. So it started as a shoe business.
Yes.
But then now what do you do?
So it started as a shoe business. Then in 2013, 2014, there about where there was a craze for trying to rebrand old bags and revamp old bags with African print. We moved into that space as well. So I could go to Makola to buy heels and old shoes and put African print on it because that was the craze in town.
Yeah.
Then we were taking old bags from women to cover them up because sometimes they had very nice bags, but because of the heat and some other things, they didn't want to throw them away. So we needed to give it another life. So that's how I also started with the bags. Then in 2017, we decided to do our own production from scratch. That's the bags from scratch, right? So we started doing
From scratch also, you source the materials from here.
Exactly. So we source the materials from here, from Kumasi, from Accra, any part. It's the job of some businessmen to just bring the materials, then you buy from them.
It's actually a problem. This is like the beginning of the operation Feed Yourself. Sourcing everything from here. Interesting, yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yes. So in 2017, we decided to start our own production.
Right.
Even before 2017, we started to start our own production for the bags. For the shoes, we had started long ago. So that was how it started. Then we added more things. So shoes, bags. In 2018, we added belts. All right, because then when people came to the shop, they also wanted to add belts. So we added belts. Then in 2022, we added kaftans and African print shirts to it. And so currently we have shoes, all forms of shoes, dress shoes, from Chelsea boot to Oxford to slippers to sandals, ahinema, then belts, all kinds of bags, duffel bags, laptop bags, school bags, every bag, handbags especially. And we have the African print shirt as well. So that has been our journey. These are the product portfolios that we have.
That's interesting. And you do for males and females or just males?
Males and females.
Wow.
So we started with female slippers. That was our first 5 products. Then we moved into men.
Oh, the business you started with females?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Female slippers.
Okay.
Yes. Then just 6 months into it, we started with men loafers for students, where we had to use the conveyor belt as the source of the shoes. Then we had to use old denim and old, cordron to do the top of the shoe. So these were the very first shoes that we made for guys. And as at the time, I didn't even know anything sustainability. But when I got to third year, that's when we did environmental sustainability. Okay. And I realized that what I was doing before, I was just practicing ahead of what I was going to study. We were doing more of environmental sustainability, water waste management, treatment and all that. But then that also came into it. So that's how it started.
That's very interesting. But also doing business as a young businessman, what challenges were you facing?
I'll start off from school. I think I missed lectures. That I'll have to be frank with anybody. I missed lectures because I had to meet some customers, meet some people here and there, go and pick some things from VIP parcel office and all that. I missed that. But I think I kept a very good relationship with my TAs, and so at the point I had to go to them for all that. What I've also come to realize is that in as much as there's a little or no financial support for businesses, there are also not maybe when we start an enabling environment for businesses and young businesses to thrive. That was in the beginning. But these days I could see that there are some form of support, either through incubators or what I would say enterprise support organizations, that of likes of InnoHub, MDF West Africa, and some other ones. Yeah. They are springing up, and so these days we are trying to take advantage of those things. But it's tough coming from a place where I didn't do business administration. I just did straight engineering. I know, yes, we did some form of psychology, sociology, and some other things. It was very hard to really, turn around the business to move at the light that I wanted it to move. But managing workers is one of the most difficult things that I've come to see, especially within our space. the leather value chain, the fashion industry. That's one major thing that we have come to see that is very difficult to work with. Money, yes, but you could get all the money, but if you don't have the right human capital, then you face a challenge.
Right. So how many people do you employ now?
Currently, we are 12. We started at 1. We are currently 12. 6 are full-time and 6 are part-time.
If you're to advise young entrepreneurs, now people say there's no employment. We are crying on government that we are unemployed. People complete their university education, they have nothing to do. You started as a food processing engineer.
Yeah.
And today you are, I don't know if you can call you a shoemaker.
Yes, that's right.
A professional
on
shoemaker.
LinkedIn, I'm a leather value chain expert. When I meet you, I'm a shoe and a bag maker.
Right,
Yes,
but
yeah.
what advice will you give to our people today? Because today unemployment is a real issue. I'm happy with the fact that you have created something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what this guy, you are sourcing everything from here.
Yeah.
What advice will you give to people who say there's no employment? People are just home, just saying that we are waiting for government.
Well, it's tough, but I think they should just start small but think big. If they want to do their own thing, there are a lot of enterprise support organizations. Some just take your ideas, try to shape you, and make sure that your idea becomes something better. And there are some that will give you even some form of financial support. So they should just read more, and they'll get the support that they need. I think during our time, social media wasn't that prominent, if I should put it. But these days, there are a lot of things that they can do from social media and still get money.
Yeah.
You can be operating a very small space, but social media will give you the audience that you need. And so they should be able to tap into those things and not just waste their time on social media. And they should call for support if they need. If they need the support, because I've realized that we've been able to do certain things much better because we partnered with some organizations, right? We formed some partnerships with even some other shoemakers and bag makers. And so if they need help, they should call for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they should believe in themselves. Because I think when we started, even when I finished school, sometimes, in as much as my parents were very supportive, they never said, don't do it. Once a while, they would just throw in, they want to go and look for a job in the, Nestle or something.
Yeah.
And because I believed in myself and I realized that was what I really wanted to do, and also to create impact in community, I had to push and push and push. And today we've been able to give trainings to more than 100 people.
Wow.
We've gone to communities to train them on bag making.
Wow.
We've trained people. We've partnered with KNUST, their leather department, to give internship opportunities to their leather students, because we realize that some of them do not get placed in leather companies and they lose their career right after school. And so we needed to do that. And so partnerships, collaboration, they should seek help, and I'm sure they'll be fine.
Interesting. Before I let you go, let me find out your products being 100% Ghana made.
Yeah.
How does it compete with the foreign products that come in? The normal shirts because it looks like most of our people have a foreign taste.
Yeah.
People are happy to know they are wearing a shirt bought from London as compared to a locally made one. So how are your goods competing?
I get that question a lot, and I also really side with people who want to, because that's how we've been trained. When we started school, the foreign, our white people came around and all that, and so we are used to that. It was a difficult thing for us in the beginning because you're now trying to break the myth, around made in Ghana stuff. And I don't blame them much because, our forefathers who started did not have, let's say, the issues of quality, the issues of quality at hand. Yeah. But now we've been lucky enough to be educated, and we know the kind of people that we are trying to serve. And so we try very much to listen to customer complaints and see where we can tweak our product, to suit them. So we listen to customers very much. Again, customer service is one of the most important things that we've done. Quality is a daily thing that we speak about in our company. If we are doing 100 products today and we have a reject of 10, non-conforming product of 10, the next month or the next 2 months, we are trying to make sure that our next non-conforming product comes to like 5.
Right.
And that is the thing that we keep doing constantly.
Right.
And we try to do in-house trainings, you know, for our people to be able to get abreast with quality. Let me end with a story. Somewhere in 2014, I told somebody to make a shoe, right? And there were issues of glue, you know, at the side, and the sole had black stuff. And I was like, look, this is not a shoe I can sell. And he said it in Tree, but in Pabwano, they could see for me. Why should I have to? Why do I even have to clean, you know, the sole? Damn. And but I understood where he was coming from, right? Yeah. Because they are used to and Pabwana, then people come and pick it up and go and sell, you know. And one day when I went to Kumasi, I bought a foreign brand and I took it to him. And I took one of ours and I put the 2 there. I was like, if you are given the chance to give these 2 shoes to the president of Ghana, which of the shoes will you pick and give to the person? He stood there for some seconds and he was like this. I was like, why? Then he gave me the attributes of the shoe. And so from that day, their mind decided to shift. Yeah. And that's where we've been able to build all those things. Right. And so quality craftsmanship is top of on our mind. But we realized that we had to go an extra mile to listen to customer feedback. Sometimes there were some products that maybe you bought that even you bought that had issues you had to bring. But I think how we responded to you made you come back, right? Yeah. So customer service too is one of the most important things. Right. And so that's how we've been able to do that. And we stay in touch with our customers.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have some products here you can show to our cameras.
Yes. So we have our laptop bag.
Okay, if you can point it to the camera.
Okay. This one?
Yes.
Yes, so we have our laptop bag. First, it wasn't like this. It was just one straight thing. Yeah. But we listened to customer. They were like, oh, I need to put my laptop here.
This camera rather.
I need to put my laptop here. I need to get something for my charger, extra things, my phone, and all those things. So you realize that this laptop bag has over 6 compartments.
Right.
One here, and 3 inside, and it's well padded. It comes with a shoulder strap, right?
It looks very strong.
Very strong. Prof, maybe you want to have a few. This is our female Kipolet, right? It also has a shoulder strap that you can strap. And so...
Oh, it's in it?
Yes. So this is leather.
Right.
All right. This is made of leather as well.
Very nice finishing.
Yes. We have the laptop pouches. So there are some people who just want to keep their slide in their handbags. Exactly. Yeah. And we have something small that you can just hold. If you're tired of just putting them here, you hold it. All right. It's also well padded. And I didn't bring a shoe because I'm wearing one. I thought I could just show. But this is our traditional slippers, the Ahenema. We realized that they were so heavy. And these days, people want to connect with their traditional slippers, but they said that they were so heavy and they couldn't take it to work. So we had to think through to use lighter materials to make it light so that people could wear with their kaftans to work, church, and some traditional wear. So this is one of our latest, our Ahenema, which comes with the Jinyame symbols to, tell us more about our culture. So yeah, these are the products. The top I'm wearing is one of our products, right? The top and the trousers is one of our products. And I have my belt on. So basically, these are the things that I brought today to show to the world, to let people know that Ghanaians, the Ghanaian artisan is capable of doing good things. We just need the right structures. We just need the right training from government or any institutions to partner with us to put the brand forward. So this is what Giddens is about.
Wow. Right, but if we need any of these, where do we go to?
Okay, so our physical showroom is it's adjacent to the University of Professional Studies around the Legon area. And we are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as Giddens Fashion. Giddens Fashion is Giddins, then fashion. It's
Giddens Fashion.
Yes, Giddins Fashion. Yes, it's a combined word, Giddens Fashion. And you can reach us out on 0243 811 094.
0243
811
811
094.
094.
Yes. So the interesting thing about us is we offer white label services. Somebody wants to start a bag brand, but doesn't have the equipment, doesn't have the capacity to do that. We use our showroom or our factory, which is at Oyarifa, to produce things for you. So we will sit you down, walk you through the process. You give us the design, we walk you through, then we will produce for you, and you put your own label on it.
Oh, is it? So let's say I want to start my clothing line or my shoe line.
Exactly.
With my name on it. You can customize it too.
Exactly. So for now, we do that for bags and slippers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if you want to find, you can find you Giddens Fashion on Facebook, IG.
Yes, Twitter. And TikTok.
And TikTok, Giddens Fashion. And we want to call you 0243 811 094.
Yeah.
Okay. But somebody I've just received a message on, just that he's a startup.
Okay.
In fact, he's trying to start a business. What advice do you have for him?
First of all, he should just register the business. That's what I would say. I don't know which business it is, but he should just register it. We have a lot of government organizations, the Ghana Enterprises Agency. He can go there and go and get the support that he needs. There are enterprise support organizations like InnoHub, Growth Center, which is just around East Legon. They can take you through from scratch, from your idea stage to wherever you are. MDF West Africa too is there. Or you should just go online and just search for enterprise support organizations for Ghanaian startups. 2, if he's below the age of 35, there are a lot of opportunities for him. He should just Google, he will get a lot of things, right? And form good partners, friends here and there, and I'm sure he will be fine.
Right, thank you. If you want to read Giddens, you can follow him on social media, Giddens Fashion, and you can also reach him on 0243 811 094. Prof, I'll give you an opportunity to give him some words of advice.
Look, frankly, I'm just so impressed. I don't know what to say. Okay. And I'm saying that because for me, I see the beginning of something great, you know. This country's future lies in people like him who are thinking of producing. One of our biggest shortfalls in our development is the lack of production. What you are doing here used to be imported. Yeah. But if you're able to really expand this, improve it and all, then there'll be no need for imports, you see. So I commend you very, very highly. And I think talking about Acheampong, one of the things he did that we haven't even spoken about is when he decided to deliberately support Ghanaian businesses.
Right, the industries.
Industries, deliberately. So the Tata Brewery thing, the BMN thing, all those big businesses that later on collapsed during Rawlings' time were businesses that were deliberately supported. So I wish government can find a way to pick individuals like this and build them up to become exporters. Because if he exports, it's for the nation, you see. So I wish you well, and I'm hoping the monies that government throws away, NEB, those money they give 10,000, 5,000 here, nothing comes back. But if you concentrate on individuals like you to build your business, become an exporter, then we can say this country is going somewhere. So I really commend you highly.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much.
Right, so we've been speaking with Giddens, and you can reach him on Giddens Fashion on Facebook, on Instagram, on X. You can also reach him on his number 0243 811 094. If you need any shoe, any bag, literally anything to clothe yourself, you can reach Giddens, and he's able to supply your needs. And in fact, he can customize your slippers and clothing, right? Giddens?
Bags.
Slippers and bags. So if you need to see your name on your bag, just call 0243 811 094, and I can assure you your deal will be made. We'll take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up. Stay tuned.
All for you, I dey wait you, Papa. I dey wait you, Mommy. I dey wait you, Papa. Ooh. All for you, all for you, it 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 all for you. I dey wait you, Papa. I dey wait you, Mommy. I dey wait you, Papa. Oh, all for you.
Z 101.9 FM.
All for you. All for you. It all for you.
We're still live on Z 101.9 FM, and it's still the focus. We've been talking about Ghana at 68. We've been looking at the governance systems. And Prof, we'll just take your final words so we can wrap up. Currently, the Constitution Review Committee, they are calling for views on the Constitution. And President Mahama, in fact, his speech at the Independence Day celebration was quite clear about the fact that the Constitution has served us well, but we'll have to take a relook at it. From your governance perspective and how we want to build our country going forward, what do you think the Constitution Review Committee should think about in terms of their work on the Constitution? Because by and large, our success will depend on the kind of Constitution that governs us.
It's a good question, but don't forget that this will be the second time that we are seeking to review our Constitution.
Yeah.
Under Tamils, we did that. And
I
we
think
didn't
2010
see
or so.
Exactly. And even when the committee then, my good friend Raymond, Professor Atubuga was the secretary, they submitted the most popular desire of Ghanaians at the time, which was to have DC selected, was not accepted by the government. They rather came back and proposed alternatives. So I'm saying that if in fact this committee goes around and collect views and there's an overwhelming desire of people, government cannot set it aside. You have to do what the people want. Secondly, it's important that the committee also focuses on certain critical areas. I've seen their program. They are tour around the country in the areas they are soliciting inputs for. I think it's clear. Our presidents, I'm not talking about Mahama, the institution of the presidency is too much empowered. We need to look at devolving power to the local assemblies so that we can begin to see political actions at the local levels. We should allow local people to determine, to a large extent, their own development agenda. Government comes in with support, with help. We should introduce help programs. We can call it Operation Feed Yourself, but we need to begin to get people themselves to empower themselves to do things. We should not let people wait on government to provide the basic things that we need. Amongst them, I remember Mahama during his first term, went to a certain village in the western region, and all the chief could plead for was a toilet. You see, Mr. President, in our community, we have a problem, we don't have a toilet. That should not happen. That should not happen. I think it's happening because people feel like without the central government, nothing can be done. So in seeking to reform the government or governance in the country, we should see how we empower local communities at the district level for them to begin to introduce development at that level. And many things. I think if you look at the agenda of the committee, they've mapped out certain areas that needs to be reviewed. And I think they should have the courage to make bold proposals for fundamental issues to be addressed. And if we do that, then we can begin to see a new governance emerging.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Bafo Agyemang-Duah, who is I still choose to maintain he's a governance expert and the CEO of the J. Kufuor Foundation. It's quite clear that we have to empower our local communities, and maybe we have to bring back the Operation Feed Yourself that was implemented successfully by the Champon regime, so that we can fall back or cut down our heavy importation and reliance on external aid.
In fact, my good friend, I will refer President Mahama to the book on Champon.
Right.
I quoted him and quoted his chief of staff, E.M. Deborah.
Yeah.
Not E.M., Julius Deborah.
Julius Deborah.
When they were campaigning towards the 2016 elections, Deborah specifically said, if we win, we will bring back Operation Feed Yourself.
Oh, was it?
I've noted it, and I'm holding him accountable to that statement that he made. Because if they're able to reintroduce Operation Feed Yourself, we're going to go a long way in becoming self-sufficient in things that we can produce.
Very well. Thank you very much, Prof. And we're also joined by Mr. Bwedi from the GII. Many thanks to everybody who tuned in to listen to us. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the comments and contributions you sent to us. It's still Z101.9 and the focus. I wish everybody the best. And as Heritage Man, please do well to rep Ghana successfully. If you want to rep Ghana, don't forget to call Giddens Fashion 0243-811-094. Thank you very much. Have a very good weekend and a good week, and we shall meet next week. God bless us all.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM.